So the year was 2022. I had just started my fitness journey and it seemed like I was trying just about everything to get into really great shape. A lot of my friends that I was hanging out with at this time were all into the gym, and so I started lifting weights and I started watching all the YouTube videos, reading the different tutorials and all that good stuff. But for the longest time, it seemed like I was just kind of standing in place and not really able to make any meaningful changes. Felt like I was trying everything, all the different diets, all the different fads, all the different workout splits, and it really just felt like this complicated process as time went on, and it kind of caused me to lose some motivation. But the good news is that I learned the truth about getting into shape, and the truth is that it really only takes a few simple but fundamental principles to get into really good shape. And in this video, I'm gonna tell you exactly how I was finally able to get my dream body and how you can also do the same thing. All right, guys, and just so you know, this is what I used to look like. I like to show everybody this in my videos so that you guys know that I actually made a transformation. As you can see, I was pretty much just had an average physique. I was a little bit overweight, didn't have very much muscle mass, and was generally just living a pretty much unhealthy overall lifestyle at this time. But the good news is through implementing just a few very basic principles, I was finally able to get my dream physique. So you can see that I was able to drop quite a bit of body fat, gain quite a bit of muscle, and just overall live a much healthier, better lifestyle. And I'm gonna show you how you guys can do that in this video today. And like I said, guys, if I can do it, anyone can. All right, so there's gonna be three things that we're gonna cover today, guys. Pretty much three main things that I implemented into my life that completely changed my physique and the quality of my life in a much more positive direction. And I can guarantee you, if you implement these principles into your life, it will also do the same for you. So the first thing that we're gonna talk about, guys, is the diet. I believe that the diet makes up about 80 to 90% of your physique. And if you can just get this one thing dialed in, it will really make a big difference. Most people, though, from what I found who are overweight, just simply have an addiction to junk food. I certainly did. And what it is we have these really addictive, ultra high dopamine pleasure foods that are highly processed, highly synthetic, and I would almost consider them brain hacking, because pretty much when you eat these food, it's almost like drugs. It just releases a ton of dopamine and it makes it so that it's really hard to stop. It's like this highly corporatized version of food that hasn't been around. It's not what humans have been eating, but it is a super pleasureful experience that I believe keeps people really addicted. So that's what people are referring to when they say quote unquote processed foods. But what we want to do is we want to focus on minimizing the consumption of these processed foods. And I know that sometimes people say, oh, well, I don't want to diet because it just seems way too militant. But I believe that you can still have processed foods every once in a while, but the main issue is that we want to go from it being a regular thing to just an every once in a while thing. I believe that that's the main problem, because trust me, I know how it feels to come home from work and you stop by the drive-thru every single night to get some fast food. Not because I'm trying to call anybody out, but because that's how I used to live. So we want to take it from being a regular thing that's incorporated into your diet to just like every once in a while treat kind of thing. But I believe that the regular day-to-day diet should really just involve mostly high quality whole foods, which include things like animal meats, fruits, vegetables, dairy. I do eat carbs. I don't know why there's like this big anti-push against carbs, but I love sweet potatoes, rice, all that good stuff. Just kind of the things that are pretty intuitive that we all know that are healthy for you that you should be eating in the first place. And it doesn't need to be perfect. I think that for the average person, if you're just trying to get into really good shape, following the 80-20 rule is going to work for you. Just do the most important 20% and you'll still yield 80% of the results. And I think one thing that helps me too is just having a quote unquote no big deal mindset. I think one thing that was hard for me at first was I would just make the diet feel like a really big deal. But once I switched over to thinking that, oh, this just isn't a big deal. Like this is just, it's easy to eat this way. I like fruits anyways. And I just kind of picked out the healthy foods that I like already and just started eating a bunch of that stuff. Then it really just made me feel like, this is a no big deal thing. This is, actually how I should be eating. And it's just kind of a mindset switch where it wasn't like this huge catastrophic change in my life, but it was actually just like a simple switch that made me feel better and was getting me healthier. And then the next thing we're going to talk about, guys, is the environment. I believe that your environment is the setup for both failure and success. Imagine that you were an alcoholic and you were trying to stop drinking, but your environment, your house was just filled with booze. How do you think that that's going to go? Well, I think that analogy actually holds up quite well with people trying to get into shape. If you're trying to get into shape, but your environment isn't suited for a healthy living style, then it's going to be a lot more difficult. And a really important question I think that also we all should ask ourselves is, do you and your friends' goals align? This one's a personal one for me because I spent a lot of my early 20s and late teens hanging around people who just didn't have the same priorities as me. They'd want to go drinking on the weekends and stuff, and it was really hard for me to say no to that because I wanted to hang out with them, I wanted to have a good time, but also there was a part of me, there was this tension inside of me that also knew that I was trying to do other stuff like get healthy, not abuse my body, that kind of stuff. And so there was this friction there. So I think that asking yourself if you and the people that you're surrounding yourself goals align is actually really important. And just a little visual understanding of where do your beliefs come from. You have knowledge, future vision, past results, events, and you can see a large portion of where your beliefs come from are simply just the environment that you're in. So what I recommend is tailor your environment to your goals, which takes self-honesty. A good example of that is I simply just don't keep junk food in my house, not because I'm trying to be militant and hard on myself and because I need to be, an absolute warrior. I know there's like this red pill mindset online where you got to just be an absolute warrior all the time, but that's not the reason why I live like that. It's just because I have been honest with myself and I know that if I keep junk food around the house, I'm going to eat it all. So I'm just honest with myself enough to actually tailor my environment to be suited towards my goals. And I think that people fundamentally misunderstand what it means to be free. I think that a lot of times what people think freedom is freedom means being relinquished of all standards. This is incorrect, and this will inevitably lead to a life of hedonism and dissatisfaction and unfulfillment. I think the truth is freedom is using your free will in service of something good and doing the right thing. That's what freedom actually is. It's using your free will to do the right thing. And then the last thing we're going to talk about, guys, is momentum. Momentum is simply compounding, quote unquote, flow, if you will. And as you adapt to new lifestyle changes, as you adapt to doing the good habits, the resistance actually decreases. And you can think of it like the snowball effect. When you're just starting off, it's small and you don't have a ton of momentum, but as the ball gets rolling, the momentum increases. So I just want you to understand, if you're a beginner and you feel like this is a difficult process, it absolutely will get easier. And I think that the momentum issue is what you see a lot when, in the New Year's resolution, right? Where you have a bunch of people sign up for gym memberships and then they become the first month gym quitters just because they never felt the compounding effect of momentum. And also, I don't think that people think enough about your why. There's this book called Start With Why by Simon Sinek. It's a great book, but it really just means that whenever you're trying to accomplish a goal, you start with the why first, and then you build out from there. You have to have a strong foundation as to why you're doing something so that you can sustain it when things get difficult. Things aren't always going to be easy when you're trying to accomplish a goal, but you need to have a strong, solid why and a strong, solid vision as to why you're doing something so that when things do get difficult, you don't quit, right? You don't want to be the first month gym quitter. You want to be the person who sticks through resistance so you can actually see the other side and yield the results. So now a lot of times people will also ask me, okay, that all sounds good, but what about like day-to-day eating? What meals do you recommend? What exercises do you do in the gym? Well, if you're interested in a step-by-step tutorial, then I actually just wrote an entire book called The Aesthetic Protocol. It's in the description down below. I spent a ton of time on it. It's simply just the price of a couple cups of coffee, but I guarantee you if you read through it, absorb the information, and implement it into your life, it will completely change your body, completely change your life for the better. So go check that out. And the other thing too, guys, is we already hit 1,000 subscribers, so thanks so much for that. Next goal is 10K by the end of the year, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button. It helps me out a lot. And I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.